What's up everybody, welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony, let's jump in. Happy Monday everybody, it's good to be back. I hope those of you who celebrate Christmas had a wonderful last few days. Let's jump back into it though. Even with its over 13 million people under strict lockdown, the situation continues to deteriorate this week for the ancient city of Xi'an. What started as dozens of daily new cases has turned into hundreds, and state media is now describing the situation in Xi'an as the worst outbreak in the mainland since Wuhan back in early 2020. On Sunday evening, authorities in Xi'an announced that the number of cases would, quote, probably continue to be high for several more days, end quote, and that the public should not panic. On the same day, the government said that starting at 6 p.m. that evening, the entire city would be disinfected and urgently required people to close windows and bring items indoors. The outbreak appears to be linked to the Delta variant, with no Omicron variant infections yet reported, although Omicron cases have been found in Tianjin in the north and Guangdong in the south of the country. In the last China Update, we discussed the news that 26 officials have already been punished for mishandling the initial response to the outbreak. Xi'an local authorities do not seem to be performing as well as others like the authorities of Zhejiang, which recently dealt with an outbreak of its own. For example, recently one outspoken virologist in the mainland noted that Xi'an is under-resourced, expressing that it should have about 1,000 staff engaged in epidemiological research, whereas currently such staff levels in the city are only at about 1/3 of that rate. Also, the health code system used across the entire country, required to enter public venues like shops or hospitals, crashed last week due to an overwhelming number of users. On Monday, today, this morning, local authorities announced a 4th round of citywide mass testing for the virus beginning from noon, expressing that the situation remained, quote, dire and complex, end quote, with surging cases in a country pursuing a zero cases policy. As China moves closer to Chinese New Year, travel restrictions are tightening across the country, and there are now fresh concerns for China's tourism industry, an industry valued at about 1 trillion RMB domestically and which employs approximately 30 million workers. Even without the restrictions, industry experts are warning that travelers may simply just want to stay at home due to virus concerns. Yesterday, in an interview with Hong Kong media, Li Wenjie, chief executive of Shanghai Yaheng International Travel, expressed, quote, the resurgence of COVID-19 cases has thrown a wet blanket over our expectations for a turnaround. The industry has been pinning its hopes on the New Year and Lunar New Year holiday. It is unlikely that many people will make travel plans given the virus concerns. End quote. In addition to the cases in Xi'an, local infections have also been found in the provinces of Guangxi, Zhejiang, Guangdong, Sichuan, as well as the capital city of Beijing in recent days. Over the weekend, Yuan Peng, president of the influential Beijing-based China Institutes of Contemporary International Relations, penned a piece expressing that a, quote, new force is rising in the heartland of world geopolitics, end quote. Mr. Yuan was referring to the recently upgraded grouping of Turkic-speaking states, now called the Organization of Turkic States. Its member states now include Turkey, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, 3 of which share borders with China's Xinjiang region, a traditionally Turkic-speaking majority region that to this day has not fully assimilated into the national majority Han Chinese culture. Yuan warned of the growing solidarity of the Turkic organization, expressing, quote, it is trying to emulate the European Union, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, the Arab League, and to form a so-called League of Turkic States, end quote, built on, quote, common history, common language, common identity, and common culture, end quote. Yuan concludes by arguing that Beijing policymakers need to be more alert as this upgraded organization of Turkic states despite all its shortcomings, introduces, quote, extreme uncertainty in Central Asia for China, end quote. Okay, next up, some military updates for the People's Republic of China. Quickly, if you're enjoying the episode, don't forget to hit the like button. It's the only way this video can be shown to new people. And if you're watching this for the first time, you're getting some value from the episode, maybe consider subscribing, hit that bell notification, and you'll have the most up-to-date analysis when I release these every day. Okay, let's move on. From time to time on China Update, we've discussed the speed in which the People's Liberation Army has been developing its military hardware, particularly the speed of shipbuilding, and what it could mean for the naval balance of power, particularly in the Western Pacific in the future. Last week, this speed was very much on display. On Thursday, China launched 3 warships, including 2 for export and 1 for its own fleet. State media reports that these were a 071E landing platform dock to be exported to Thailand, and 2 Type 054 frigates, one of which is to be sent to Pakistan. State media reports that the Type 054A frigate is, quote, recognized as the backbone of the Chinese surface combatant fleet, with 30 in active service, end quote. Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post reports that China has more than 20 yards supporting naval service ship construction, as well as dozens of commercial shipyards that exceed the largest US shipyards in size and throughput. Last year, the US Pentagon warned in its China Military Power Report that China has the biggest navy in the world, with an overall battle force of about 350 surface ships, versus the US Navy's 293 ships. Many analysts are very right to point out, however, that other naval powers, from Japan to the United Kingdom and of course the United States, have greater technology and thus better quality hardware. Indeed, the US Navy has 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers, just one of which carries firepower much greater than all of China's conventional carriers. The Chinese side also has less experience and expertise at naval warfare. However, in saying all this, the technology gap is slowly being closed, and of course there is always the truism that quantity has a quality all its own. And finally, the Evergrande crisis. Is the government pumping life back into this crisis hit property developer? At a special meeting on Sunday evening, the founder and chairman of China Evergrande announced that the crisis hit company must meet its target of delivering 39,000 units of apartments in December and to resume sales and pay down its debt. On Monday, the following day, today, Evergrande expressed to state media that it has resumed construction at most of its housing projects and that, quote, more than 80% of business partners and long-term material suppliers have resumed cooperation, end quote. According to the company, so take it with a grain of salt, nearly 92% of its property projects have so far restarted, compared with 50% at the beginning of September. In the same statement, Evergrande also expressed that the number of workers involved in the projects has risen 31% from September to almost 90,000 people. A nice little signal to local officials that there would be a lot out of work if projects lost access to funding again. Meanwhile, over the weekend, the People's Bank of China released a special statement on Saturday expressing that the central bank will be more quote-unquote proactive with its use of monetary policy tools, and that it must promote the healthy growth of the property sector in order to, quote, protect home buyers' rights, end quote. All signs that regulators are still seeing space to ease regulatory restrictions on the crisis-hit housing sector in China. And if that signal to the market wasn't clear enough, also over the weekend, Wang Menghui, Minister of Housing and Urban Rural Development, speaking to state media, expressed that the government will make efforts to, quote, stabilize land and housing prices and ensure responsible demand, end quote. With all this, however, Evergrande and its ilk are not out of the woods yet. In fact, Evergrande's true tests are still to come. Next year, in 2022, Evergrande has $7.4 billion worth of local and offshore bonds due. Most of its offshore dollar bonds are trading below 23 cents on the dollar currently, so the market is still not very confident in its ability to pay its debt. And speaking of debt, Just tomorrow on Tuesday, it has about $255 million in coupon payments due on $2 notes. Hey guys, I'd love to hear what you thought about some of the updates we covered in today's episode, so throw your comments below. Always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.